What's happening, everybody? Matthew Blackburn here, actually at one of my old schools I got to grow up at, Central Elementary, and I used to love this field out there. See how muddy it is? That's how it was for me when I went to school out here, and I loved it. We didn't have the playground then. I don't think all the basketball goals had hoops on them, but man, that field was everything we needed because we loved playing football. In my mind, when I think about my memories, I feel like this is how I remember myself looking. But in reality, I probably more look like this guy. But whatever the case I look like, I love playing football out here. And this one day, I remember in the morning, it started raining, like, oh no, we're gonna just have to play silent ball, which I love silent ball, but I wanted to play football that day with my friends. And sure enough, it stopped raining enough for us to come out and play. And so we got out there and we got all in there. I remember the first person slipped and fell, got a little mud on them, and then what happens next? We all just start joining in, and we get covered with mud, and our teacher says, come on over, come back, and we come up soupy and covered in mud to head and toe, and I could still remember her just shaking her head. She just shakes her head at us, and goes a little nonverbal, which is never a good sign, and tells us, come out here. So this is, next to the classrooms here. We had to sit outside the classroom, and she told us, why did you get muddy? Someone has to clean up after you. You're gonna be uncomfortable the rest of the day. We still had 2 hours left, and so the rest of the day we had to do our schoolwork sitting out here on the sidewalks. And then we had to go home and write sentences of what we did was wrong. And I felt terrible, but mostly I felt like it was injustice. I was wronged. I shouldn't have got in trouble. She let us out there. It was muddy. What are boys supposed to do? We're supposed to play in the mud. So I remember getting home. I had this argument in my head, and as soon as my mom asked me how my day, I went right into it. It's like, oh, the injustice of it. I shouldn't have got in trouble for this, and I was writing my sentences, just mumbling, and just think about how I probably looked like as a little kid, being all mad, and I remember the next morning coming to school still holding that, and I was so upset. It's like, you can't get mad at us. We're just boys being boys getting muddy. You let us out there in there doing it. And I remember we gave the teacher our sheet of paper of the things, and we got to sit on our desk, and the rest of the day was normal. We got to go out and play football again. It was great. All of us was forgiven. We got to move on, except for the simple fact that it took me a long time to move on to that. I held on to that so much. I held on to this frustration and anger. When I look back on it, I think the reason I was angry was she was right. She was right. I knew better than to get muddy. I wasn't comfortable the rest of the day. I felt terrible sitting in my muddy clothes the rest of the day. And I love the people who work here at the school. I wouldn't want them to pick up and clean up my mess afterwards. I mean, before I got home, I had to take off all my clothes because I couldn't get mud into the house. And so those are the things that I knew that wasn't who I was, but man, I was so frustrated at myself for doing that. It makes me think about forgiveness a little bit. It makes me think about a quote actually I've heard about forgiveness by this guy, George MacDonald. He says, forgiveness is the giving and thus receiving a more life. It is a gift. It's a gift of living into a life that we're really called to live into. And it's that second chance always. And I wasn't necessarily taking that gift that our teacher gave us. We got to go play. I had a second chance. It was a new day. I held on to this resentment. And I know it sounds silly. And I know a lot of times when you think of forgiveness, at least for me, I think of all these big things, of big wrongs. But honestly, those little ones have added up to me in my life, I feel like. And I just think that a lot of times I don't take the gift of forgiveness like I should. I mean, it's like the golden ticket. It's like Willy Wonka and the golden ticket, going around and you find it. And, it's us saying, no, we don't want it. No, we would take it and run with it, go to the chocolate factory, get the prize. And so I hope that this week we see forgiveness as a gift as it is. We think about maybe one time, it could be a small thing, or it could be a big thing that we can let go of, a memory of us, a time that we haven't maybe truly accepted that moment of being forgiven. And by doing so, we get to experience this life we're meant to live, this life abundant, this life that is filled with God's love, and a fresh day every day to kind of live into it. Not let our past influence who we are at this moment, but let the present really stand for the present and be the gift that it is. Love you guys.